Jonas was my second child, second son, 30 years old, funny, sarcastic, full of life. He was getting ready to go to film school. He was a server at some fine dining restaurants here in San Antonio. I think he was starting to go through burnout, as a lot of servers do. So, working in the evenings, partying, at night, and then going home and kind of getting up the next day and starting it all over again. And so I had said to him, are you ready for a change? Let's do something different. And he said, yeah, Mom, I want to go to film school. And I said, well, good, because now I can help you. And unfortunately, he didn't make it to be able to do that. Growing up, he was a very happy child. His older brother they were a year and a half apart, very close growing up. My sons were born in Los Angeles, California. Loved to play, loved to laugh, loved film, loved music. We lived right off of Sunset Boulevard, so we walked to Tower Video and Tower Records like every other day, which was great. They're no longer there, but so they were very exposed to film and culture and the arts. Very happy growing up, very happy. I mean, there were concerns because a mom just kind of knows their children, but not anything that was just, stood out. I do know before he passed, he had been going through some struggles. He called it anxiety. I think it was just burnout. But he was seeing a therapist about just being anxious a lot. So that's when I kind of noticed things changing a little bit. But I think there was some experimental things going on with him and drugs. What's hurtful to me is that he was getting help, yet bought something off the street that took his life almost immediately. And I wish that he could have, asked a doctor for more help, but unfortunately, it was too late. So I just kind of thought it was him going through phases, like with work. I mean, after work, partying and stuff like that. I believe like the last week and the last couple of weeks before his passing, I noticed some major changes, and that brought a concern. And at that point, it was too late. I mean, there was times, but I always kind of thought it was just too much alcohol, which I mean, of course, obviously is a concern too, but it didn't seem, I mean, he didn't have a reckless life. I mean, there was a couple of times where things had happened, but nothing that I was mainly alarmingly concerned. About a week before, he called me very early in the morning, and I could tell that he sounded like he was high or something was going. It was like 7 in the morning. I said, why are you awake so early? And he said, I've got to go to work at 10. And I'm like, that's 3 hours. So that was kind of a red flag. And then a couple of days later, he came over with a girl to my mom's house, and a girl he'd been seeing for, I think, a few months. And she's a very, very nice girl. So I thought, oh, good. I looked at him, I said, is he okay? No, he's not okay. And then I was like, but she's with him, so maybe he's okay. He was acting fine, but I knew that it seemed like he might have been drinking or something. And so I know that he was taking drugs through a psychiatrist. But he also shared with me that he had been taking drugs, like from off the street or whatever, however you say that. Prior to that, about 5 months before that, he was at work and just collapsed, and it was because of drugs. So at that point, of course, obviously, I started becoming aware. But I know when he got hospitalized because of that, he was horrified. And I don't think we really knew the whole fentanyl thing, but it was kind of starting to, come to the surface with us. And he was horrified of that. So I don't think it was something that he was, it was a drug that he was taking or anything like that. I think it was, I personally, just from evidence that I have found, think that someone that he knows sold him something, and it had it in it. And I don't know if the person put that in that, or the person that the other person got it from. I mean, it can go on and on and on. And but it's a personal belief of mine that that's what happened. And I don't know if it was 1 or 2 pills. But I have a suspicion that he probably knew the person that killed him, basically. So I don't like my son's death being dismissed as an accidental overdose. I believe that he was poisoned. And whether or not I ever find that out, I don't know, but I don't want to stop trying. I want to know that my son did not die in vain, and that at least I could, help either the next person or just kind of rest my mind a little bit. I don't know if it was a few days or a week later because that's all kind of a blur, but his best friend came over to my home and knocked on my door in the afternoon and said that he had passed, and it was so shocking. It was just out of nowhere. And so I went over there, and he passed away, fell asleep, and didn't wake up, and at his girlfriend's house. And she just said that they'd had a couple of beers and he went to bed and that was it. He was with his girlfriend, or the girl had been dating, and apparently he went to bed early that night and then didn't wake up the next day. I'm pretty sure that he was probably gone in the middle of the night. I mean, yes. But what's wild to me was that she called him first and not me. And I think afterwards they called 911. I'm not sure. And I don't know if there was just confusion or what, but that always kind of left me feeling very strange too. So that's all I've been told. I don't really know the ins and outs of that evening. And then when the coroners came and they took him, and then that was a blur too. And then I got his autopsy, and it said that he died from an accidental overdose. And then I got the toxicology report because all these things were going through my mind. Like, when I saw accidental overdose, it made me angry because I felt like he was just dismissed, an unknown person to anyone. And I said, you know what, there's got to be more to this. And they're not going to just dismiss my child like he was nobody. So I think that's why I'm getting more involved in these fentanyl meetings, because my son was everything to me. So I was not there at the apartment where he was found. There were things that I believe were missing, but I don't know 100%. There was pages ripped out of a journal that he used to keep every day that I bought him. And again, could have been him that took him out, but I don't know. There were just certain things that were suspect to me. And it's his passing was September 13th of 2021. So next month will be 2 years. And it's taken me this long to try to come forward and come forth with, even talking about it. So, I think my big thing is that I could find out that it was one of his friends, one in particular I have in mind. Would if it were up to me to say, hey, this guy's going to go to prison, would I want him to go to prison? No. He's a father of children. I wouldn't want to be this young man to be taken, away from his children. Would I want to slap the crud out of him? Heck yeah. And I have to forgive him. I'm a Christian. So at the end of the day, that's my mandate from the Lord. And I stand by that very strongly. I may not want to forgive him, but I will. And I do. And whoever's done it, it doesn't set them free. It sets me free. So, yeah. I think a lot if my son, Jonas, Ian is what we used to call him. Some people call him Jonas, were to look down at me, and if he could see me, I said, what would I want him to see? And I think that's what kind of keeps me going is I think, I want to go forth doing this because I wouldn't want him to think that his life didn't mean anything to me or what happened and how it happened. But also, I want him to see me at my best. I don't want him to see me, I wouldn't want him to see me, fall apart, because there's those moments too. I also think that, it's unfortunate that sometimes when people are needing help and are going, on the street, if you will, instead of to a doctor. Those things, you're always running the risk that can happen. It's very unfortunate because I don't think my son was looking to overdose. I think he was looking to medicate himself, and unfortunately it took his life. So I want to be my best and do my best to educate other people and do something about it in Texas. With all these drugs, I mean, it's terrible. It's an epidemic, and I don't think people realize it. I mean, our loved ones are dying like by the minutes, and it's absurd, and something's got to be done. I mean, it's got to be done. I don't know the answer, but I'm definitely here to try to make a difference, in my son's life and others as well. If I could help one other person, it would be worth it, my son's story.